Welcome, everyone. Some of you are still connecting to your audio, but I see others are already joining us. So welcome. We are just going to give other participants a few minutes to join, and then we'll start. Thank you for joining us. Welcome, everyone. Again, I will be repeating this a lot. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We are just waiting a few minutes for other participants to join us. If you want to, in the meantime, you can type your name and your location in the chat. It's always nice to have an idea of where the people are joining from. So let's do that. Hello, Imam. Thank you for joining us. Long time no see.
Thank you, Kita. Nice to be here.
Just a couple more minutes and then we'll start. We still have a few people joining us from India, Dramendakar. Hello, welcome.
Hi.
We have our speakers, of course, and Ramon from Madrid. Hans, we already had you. Welcome again. We have Pia from Germany. Welcome, welcome.
Hola Javier, ¿cómo estás? Hey, Dhamendra,
Hola.
how are you?
Welcome, Javier. Thank you for joining us. And welcome, Rita. It's so nice to have you here. Hello, Kat. Welcome. Nice to have you here. I didn't know you were back in North Carolina. Welcome home. Okay, it's already 2 p.m. my time, 4 minutes past 2 p.m. So I think we can start. And of course, other participants will join as we go, and Jennifer will very kindly let them in. Thank you, Jennifer, for that. So my name is Francisca, or Kika, as some of you might already know, and I'll be hosting this event today. Like I said before, you are welcome, even if you are just joining now, you are welcome to type your name and where you are attending from in the chat. It's always nice to know. Behind the scenes, we have a very nice group of people helping me and helping us with this webinar. So thank you so much to them in advance. A few housekeeping notes before we start. I would like to ask you to keep yourselves muted for the webinar, and this will help us all actually because it allows us to hear to the speakers more clearly. So yeah, just keep yourselves muted, and if by any chance you unmute yourself, we will mute you again, but I hope you don't mind. More notes. Okay, yes, this webinar is going to be recorded. Actually, it's already being recorded, and we are going to share the recording after the webinar for all those who wanted to join us but couldn't, or of course, if any of you wants to revisit the webinar, that's going to be possible. So if you prefer to switch off your camera and to have it switched off, then please feel free to do so. Otherwise, you are very, very welcome to have your cameras turned on, yes. So like I said, we already have 22 people here, which is very nice. My name is Francisca again. I'm GTI's or Global Tree Initiatives Project Specialist, and I'll be hosting today. We are very lucky to have Ozel with us. I think we have Ozel with us already. Just
Yes,
yes.
I'm here.
Hello. Yes, Ozel is going to. He's our founder. He's the founder of the Global Tree Initiative, and we are lucky to have him here. He's going to give us a welcome note, and he's going to help us set the motivation for this webinar, which is super cool. Thank you so much, Ozel, for joining, and the floor is yours for the next 5 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see everybody here. And yeah, so I just wanted to start with how we started GTI. It just happened spontaneously during COVID, and everybody just came together. And really, I think there's just so much benefit, even planting one tree, because one tree can create so many other trees in the future. So really, the benefit of planting a tree is huge, even though we can't really see it immediately, but the result is very big. And it's a way to offer a small grain of sand to the community and to humanity as a whole too. So I think also planting trees, because it brings people together, it also creates communities, which is really an amazing thing about GTI. That there's all these communities in all these countries, all working for the same goal, which is to create a better place for the future generation, starting with us, of course. So it brings people together. And at the same time, by planting trees, we're also protecting the land and the water and acting as tree shepherds. So also that, I think, is a beautiful way to help society understand, the cycle, and the ecosystem, they take care of each other. So we plant trees, we nourish and take care of the trees, and then they will take care of us, the future generations. And so the beauty of watching a tree grow is really one of the things that fascinate me. Even as a child, I already planted many trees since I remember. And going back 10, 20 years later and seeing the trees grow so big and then saplings growing near the tree really, for me, inspired me a lot since I was very young. And my son also, we plant trees together. So I really feel that it's very special for children also to plant trees within the community. So I just wanted to thank everybody for making the effort and coming together and creating, all the oxygen that we breathe. The oxygen we breathe, everybody breathes. It's a part of the way that we can live, sharing, caring, and loving. So thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And I'm looking forward to following. Thank you.
Thank you, Ozel. Actually, some of the things that you mentioned are notes that I wanted to make myself, so brilliant. Something I forgot to mention earlier is that I wanted to ask everyone to type your questions in the chat if you have them, because we have a dedicated moment for discussion with the speakers. Of course, if you have questions, please type them in the chat and we will try to get to them as best as we can. And okay, just a few introductory notes from my side. Again, thank you, Ozel, for joining us and for welcoming everyone. We will now move on to what actually brought us together today. and that is the International World of Forests, which is celebrated every year on this day, March 21. According to the United Nations, every year we are losing 10 million hectares of forest to deforestation, and 70 million hectares are affected by wildfires. I don't want to talk for too long, and I don't want to say too much, but I just wanted to highlight a few things. I wanted to highlight the importance of that forests have on our lives and to the world, to the whole world. Old growth forests are very complex systems which are filled with connections between all the beings that live there. And that alone is a great teaching, and Ozil just mentioned this himself. But that's not all. Today, forests harbor more than 80% of terrestrial biodiversity, and they play a vital role in mitigating climate change, which we all hear about every day. Spending time in nature and in natural places like forests has shown to have very beneficial effects on physical and mental health. And forests are a living example of interconnectedness and balance. So yeah, they are so important systems and beings for us. A lot more could be said about this, of course, but I think this already helps us understand the importance of restoring degraded lands and helping build back our forests. Today, we are going to talk about some practical examples from our global community, GTI's global community. As you'll see further ahead, some of the methods we are going to talk about today are actually inspired by ancient techniques. I will not say too much because I'm not here to do that. Our speakers are, and with their help, we are going to go through 3 different planting concepts: the Miyawaki method, agroforestry, and Devrai, which means sacred growth. I hope this webinar is informative and interesting for everyone. Again, please type your questions in the chat and we'll do our best to get to them. Okay, our first speaker is António. He's here with us already. Welcome, António, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Francisca.
António is from Portugal, and he's going to tell us about the Miyawaki methods. Like I said, he's Portuguese, and he's a biologist, educator, and a consultant in permaculture and urban forestry. He's one of the founders of several projects in Lisbon, which he will surely tell us more about in a minute. António is currently one of the coordinators of Floresta, which is the first tiny forest in Portugal at the Faculty of Sciences of the University of Lisbon. And this project aims to scientifically evaluate the Miyawaki methods in a temperate climate and promote biodiversity and community work in an urban context. António is also responsible for designing and implementing, or was also responsible for designing and implementing 10 other tiny projects in Portugal. So thank you so much, António, for joining us. It's a great pleasure to have you here. And the floor is yours for the next 15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francisca, and thank you to the Global Tree Initiative for the invite. I'll be sharing my screen. Please check if you can all see. It's okay? Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Then I'll start counting my 15 minutes in respect to the other 2 speakers. So thank you very much once again for the opportunity to be here to talk with you. As Francisca told you, I'm a biologist. I started my work in permaculture around 15 years ago, but more recently I've worked on tiny forests, which is a concept that I see that there are many people here from India, so they may know a little bit about this as well. But my idea is to explore a little bit the idea behind it for those that don't know it, and then talk about some practical examples, and then finish with some resources that I think are useful for anyone who wants to replicate them in a more Mediterranean area, such as Spain, Italy, and beyond. So I am here representing Urbem. Urbem is an NGO from Lisbon that I'll be talking a little bit more further on, but I represent as well the Faculty of Science and other ones that are trying to implement this methodology here that really aims to promote biodiversity in the cities for the well-being of nature and for the well-being of people. So I believe it would be interesting to start with what are tiny forests, for those that don't know. Basically, tiny forests are small forests in the urban areas, especially of native species, inspired by the Miyawaki method that I will talk to you a little bit more further ahead. The idea is because we have a lot of people in the cities nowadays and even more, and it's predicted that in the 2050s, 70% of the world population will be in the cities. It's super important to bring nature back to the cities, be it by agroforestry, horticulture, ponds, or tiny forests in this case. The idea here in the Mediterranean area, where there is a lot of heat waves and not so much rain, the idea is to try to substitute some methods of planting, such as lawns that use a lot of water and are not biodiverse, into systems that promote not only the biodiversity but also cultural values and the well-being of people. So this idea has a lot of advantages. This slide is in Portuguese. I have one in English, sorry. But just to say that this basically represents the whole continuum of things that this promotes, such as the diminishment of the noise, CO2 sequestration, well-being, potential for education, and many, many more, okay? I'll share with you a document in the end, which is in English, where you can see this with this page in more detail and others. Basically, this idea of tiny forest has spread out across the world. It started in Japan, then it went to India, where it blooms very well, and now more recently it has begun to appear in Europe. First in the Netherlands and the UK around 4 or 5 years ago, and 3 years ago in Portugal by the Faculty of Science that Francisco was talking to you about, and that I will show you a little bit more further ahead. But I think to understand what tiny forest is, it's important to understand the method or the idea behind the methodology, which is a little bit different but similar, and is also inspired, as I believe the other two projects here as well, inspired in nature and how nature does it. So the Miyawaki method basically was proposed by Professor Akira Miyawaki, which was a botanist and professor at the Yokohama National University. And in Japan, something which is very different from Europe in most cases, there are still places like this. This is a very ancient forest in Japan, which is more than 500 or 600 years old. And this happens because people in Japan, because of the culture and their religion, they believe that that the gods live in the rocks, in the leaves, in the trees, and because of that, they basically take care of them in a different way that we do here, or how we used to do here in Europe, where we devastated a lot of our area and deforested a lot of it to do construction, boats, and others. So because of this, because the context on where he lived and the fact that he was an academic that studied both the natural potential of vegetation and also the phytosociology, which is basically the communication between plants, he created a method that would be ideal or in his mind able to create forests that were worthy of the presence of the gods. Especially because he understood that we needed to create forests quickly and healthy forests, because in reality, if we wanted to create a forest, we would just have to leave a place without anything for like 400 or 500 years, and that would appear a forest. But unfortunately, we have a lot of urgence due to climate change and other factors. So this idea, this approach is to try to create and to accelerate a little bit more the growth of these types of spaces. Basically, I basically put here in 5 steps. There are a lot more steps, but this is just to have you an overview of the whole idea. So he understood that it was important to have rich soil, native plants, forest structure, plant density, and community. Okay, and we are also always talking about cities or places where the community and people are strong. Okay, I'll go very quickly on this just for you to have an idea. So he understood that it's important for any forest, be it an agroforest, be a Miyawaki forest, that the soil is the most important component there is. When we are talking about the rich soil, we are talking about a soil rich in nutrients, in life, and in many other aspects. And so that is why in the cities we try to replicate this and to try to better the soil, because usually in the cities the soil is very compacted, very difficult to work on, and it needs a little bit of help to try to recreate or to replicate a soil that will be more fitted for the plants to grow in this manner. Okay, so the soil is super important. Most of the time, it's kind of an invisible element that we don't see because we just see the trees, but the soil is the basis for everything, and it's super important that we take care of it. Next, he also understood that the forest was comprised mainly on native species. So the idea of this methodology is not to feed, but it's to create spaces and to renaturalize, let's say, some areas. So he saw that the native species were important not only because they were the most adapted to the climate and to the soil of the specific area, but also because there was a cultural heritage between the communities and these plants. And that in this way, it would be interesting and important for them to connect and to be able to take care of these spaces. For this, it's really important to observe and to identify flora. Here in Portugal or in other places, there are some apps that we can use on the mobile phone, websites such as iNaturalist, which is a worldwide platform that uses the community to basically to help identify. And here in Portugal, we also use a website that is dedicated to the Portuguese flora, where we can understand what is native and what is not. So native species is super important, especially again in a climate such as the Mediterranean, where there is a lot of heat waves and not so much water as there used to be. And the prognostic is for this to continue to happen. So the idea is we have to try and gather plants that are going to be able to survive in the long term to this kind of phenomena. And the native species seem to be the most adapted to do so. Then it's important to understand that a forest is not homogeneous. There are different layers, there are different levels. It's interesting to understand this because every level makes or has a certain function, okay? And Professor Miyawaki saw this in his forests and tried to replicate this on the methodology that he proposed to do the planting, okay? Then one of the most different things is the density. Usually the Miyawaki planting density is very high, which changes between 2 to 7 plants per square meter. And here I'm saying plants and not trees because I'm talking about all of the plants from these different levels. So I'm not just saying 7 trees, I'm saying 7, which could be 1 climber, 1 understory, 1 shrub, and etc. Although here in the Mediterranean area, there's not a lot of work done scientifically to support this. So we usually stand by the 2 to 3 plants per square meter. We think that the higher levels of 5, 6, 7 are more for tropical areas such as India or Brazil, where there's a lot of water and a lot of sun. So here we try to minimize a little bit this density, but there appear to be advantages in doing so. One of them, or the theory behind this, is if we give them a good soil and if we water them for the first 2 to 3 years, which is the period for which we have to take care of the forest, the idea is that the plants will only have to compete for the sun. And because of that, they will have to grow faster than the other ones to get to the sun. And this will make them grow not only faster in terms of vertical axis, but also on the horizontal axis, which will make the plants grow more in a more luxurious way, okay? And as well, because of this, it's also important in the summer and in the winter. Usually here in Portugal, and I believe that in other places as well, we plant usually trees very far away from each other. And this methodology, when we put a lot of plants together, they protect themselves in the winter for the cold and the winds, and in the summer from the heat waves by doing shade to one another. So there appears to be some advantages in using this type of methodology against the traditional methodology, which is usually something like this that we have here on the left. And again, one thing that we learn from nature is abundance. We human beings live in a scarcity environment where we are always worried about having a job or having opportunities, and nature shows that this is different. Shows that basically in nature, in the forest, there's a lot of abundance and diversity, and we should try to mimic this pattern from nature and run with it and replicate them in the natural system, okay? Each one of these trees every year drops hundreds of seeds, and if we multiply this by every plant that there is, we'll see that there is a lot of individual plants there, a lot of diversity, and this is something that we try to replicate on the Miyawaki method as well. And finally, community, because this is done in the cities, and this is also for people and nature. Community is one of the key aspects here when we are talking about creating such spaces in the cities, because as Francisco told you, there's a very big connectivity between the healthy nature and healthy people. So this is super important in the methodology. As Francisco also told you, I'm the coordinator or one of the coordinators of Floresta, which is the first tiny forest here in Portugal. It used to be a lawn in 2021. And basically, there used to be just 5 or 6 plants there. Nowadays, there are 664. This is an image from the day that we planted, and to your right is 1 year after. So you can see that nature is very quickly, and this was a lawn before, a complete lawn. It's very quick to be able to get up and to grow again. This is an image from a couple of days ago there. And you see that you no longer see the lawn. So this is something that is working very well here in Lisbon. Because of that, Urbem was born. Basically, Urbem is an NGO here in Lisbon, from which I'm a part of, that aims basically to connect people and nature in the city. Okay, it's the first startup here focused on urban reforestation. Here in Lisbon, we have two spaces. We have one and two, but basically very close to one another. One was this one, which is our prototype. So it's a very small place that basically had very good results in terms of survivability compared to what the municipality of Lisbon is accustomed to. And that's why they basically gave us this space, which is a lot bigger. These are older images. Nowadays, it's a lot more green. But this is just 1 year old. But the fact is, every day, oh no, every week, every weekend, we have 50 people from the community coming there every Saturday to work on the plot, to do a little bit of relaxation and activities with nature. And this seems to be super important in how the plants are growing as well. And that's why, and I always stress this, the importance of the community and the people, because without people, these places wouldn't be as thriving as they are. And that's why we are trying to replicate this in other places. We've also done one very recently with the Portuguese Environmental Agency in their headquarters, and we've been doing more in the recent times. Recently, I've been also working with some schools to do some of these other tiny forests across the areas, as well as some municipalities from where I am in Almada, which is very near Lisbon. So we are trying to replicate this as much as possible. This here is a little map, and here you have a QR code that you can search on. Basically, this is a network that we have here in Portugal, which is based on this ODS Local, which is the SDG logo. It's a site where we put every project there is, and we start to see that the movement of tiny forests here is starting to grow. It's very recent compared to India, compared to Japan, compared to other places, but it's starting to boom. And it's a very, very good thing that we have been seeing, because it has not only potential to regenerate nature in the cities, but also to educate and to serve as a useful tool in the schools. I'm almost finishing. I have 2 minutes, but I'm almost finishing. I share with you here a guide that me and my colleagues wrote on this. It's completely free. You can download. You can use it for whatever you want. There is both in English and Portuguese. It has all the steps that you need to do something like this in a Mediterranean area. This is more focused for Portugal, but it would also work, for example, in Spain or Italy or other places. The speeches have to be adapted, but this is a good basis for anyone that wants to start and do a little bit of work on this area. I'll leave you here with a couple of more sites that can be useful, and my email in case you have any questions after this presentation, or if you need any help. We've been doing as well some work outside of Portugal. I've been helping out as well some places also in Italy, Spain, and Gibraltar, doing these types of projects. So if you anytime need any type of help or want just consultancy or any question that you have, feel free to contact me. And thank you very much once again for the opportunity. And yeah.
Thank you so much, António. That was brilliant. You can stop sharing now, I think. If you agree, I will, after the webinar, once we also share the recording, we will share the presentation as well. And
Yeah.
that's, if the other speakers agree with that too, we will share all the presentations and all the contacts and all the resources. I think that's very valuable for anyone who wants to learn more. So I was thinking that we could, I would like to ask you one question, and then we can move on and then come back to the questions later on, if that's all right. You talked about the importance of the soil, and this is something that really interests me, actually. What did you do, or what do you do to prepare the soil and to make it like more healthy, more vibrant?
Yeah. So I didn't say this, but now I've started my PhD on soil on this area of the tiny forest. I think this really depends. For example, in the first one that we did in our college, we put a lot of compost and other elements on the soil. We tried to substitute a lot of the soil originally, and we saw that there are some advantages and some disadvantages, because in the Mediterranean area, the soil is very short, so the plants are used to have a very, very short organic matter layer in the soil. So they're not used to have a lot of compost there. So there are some species that work very well with it, and some species that don't. So in reality, most of the times, the plants, especially like wildflowers and the other ones, They really like very poor soils. So depending on the area, depending on the pre-existing soil, we do an evaluation and see what makes sense. Usually we try to evaluate first if it is like clay or sand or other elements. We try to see what's from that area, and we try to see if from the list of points that we have, if it makes sense to enrich the soil as much for it to compensate for them to grow. Because usually from what we've seen here, at least in Lisbon, from our experience is one of the most important things besides improving the quality of the soil is choosing the right species for that soil. The issue is that in Lisbon, in the city, is many times it's a mix of different soils from different areas of the country. So we sometimes try to replicate a more original type of soil that will be there, and this sometimes makes us have to bring some either clay or sand or other elements and try to mix with some organic matter to give it that head start. But after that, after they are able to grow for the first 2 to 3 years, we think that from what we've seen in our college, that afterwards the plants will grow by themselves, even if it is not super fast. We prefer, or I prefer, to have an established forest that takes a couple more years to grow than something that is just growing by the sake of growing. So the idea is we want more survivability than growth itself, because here in Lisbon we have a very big problem with survivability in the plants that are planted in the city, and our aim is really to try to babysit them, let's say, as much as we can with people and the soil and the other elements, for them to at least know that when we leave the place in 3 to 4 years, they can grow by themselves. And because we are not expecting them to grow as much as they would grow in Brazil, from where Renato is, or in India, because the conditions are different. We just want for them to be really well established, for them afterwards to be doing their work. So because of this, and just to finish, Francisca, my PhD will be a little bit on this, so to try to understand the impact that the soil has on the growth of these plants in this environment, because there's not so much information. But once I have more information on the next editions, I'll share with you.
It's perfect. Yeah, thank you. There's another very interesting question from Hans, it's a question I also had, which is, how do you motivate the community to?
Yes. Excellent question. Excellent question. Yes. This is, so I'll be very short because of the other presentations. But the thing is, this is from my experience from permaculture, because we have a project in our college for 15 years, and from what we've seen, and this is the same with kids or adults, is you have to integrate the people from the very start in the process for the people to feel like the project is theirs. And it's not like mine, that I go there and I tell them how to do it. We usually, in a forest, we take 6 to 9 months from the beginning until we plant it. And usually this first 6 months is just community building. It's basically getting all the people there. Those people are the ones that are going to dig the holes, are going to be the ones that remove the invasive species. They're going to do everything for them to feel like the project is theirs. And this is a lot of energy and time that you have to spend on this. But we've seen that there is almost like a direct proportionality in terms of success of the project. So the more time you invest in the months prior to the planting, the best it is for the people to go there afterwards and to take care of it. Because nobody almost goes and wants to do the weeding and remove weeds, but you want to do it if you feel like that plant and that area is yours. And this makes a very big difference. So it's to make people from the very start to go there and to feel like it's them, and then hands off.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. Okay, we might come back to this question later. Let's see, but for now, let's move on to our second speaker. Thank you so much again, António, for joining us. And our next speaker is already here as well. He's Mr. Raghunath Dhole, and he's from India. So we have quite a diverse panel today, and global panel today, which is very nice. So Mr. Raghunath, around 23 years ago, Mr. Dhole, he felt the need to restore his local ecology using indigenous plants as well. He started by collecting seeds, creating seed banks, and germinating seeds. Eventually, he opened plant nurseries and started working on growing dense forests. So it's quite similar to what António has been talking to us about. Later, Mr. Dhole, he started setting up tree libraries at local educational institutions to raise awareness of indigenous plants. So far, 2.9 million plants have been distributed, close to 300 sacred groves have been planted, over 50 dense forests grown, 18 nurseries created, and 150 tree libraries set up at different educational institutions. That's quite amazing. So Mr. Dhole is also the founder of an NGO called Devrai Foundation. As I said before, Devrai means sacred grove. And Mr. Dhole is known as Tree Man in Maharashtra, India. So the sacred grove, the Devrai, is the technique Mr. Dhole is going to talk to us about today. And I believe you are already here. So Mr. Dhole, the floor is yours. You can share your screen whenever you are ready. Thank you for being here, Mr. Dhole, and
Yes.
looking forward to hearing from you.
Yes. Welcome to everybody. To mark this World Forest Day, we have planted one sacred grove in Tata Motors today. In their open land, 500 species we have planted to mark this day. So you will find this one sacred grove, which is called as a Bhopalgarh Sacred Grove. It is near in Pune. It is in the Western Ghat. So you will find how the dense actual forest it is. Devrai is a patch of virgin forest dedicated to the deity. The apex vegetation system, there is no human intervention. That's why it is retaining. This is also called as a reference forest. This Devrai is nothing but a biodiversity. It is a hotspot sustains through ages of climate changes, gene pool. It is an ideal model of afforestation. Such sacred grove will find not only in India, but it is also in Japan, Shanto, Estonia, Kenya, Ghana, Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, it is called as the church forest. Means this sacred grove church forest exists everywhere in the world. And this you have seen the center portion, this is the dense forest you have seen, and this is the aerial view. So in this sacred grove, next, you will find the giant butterfly trees, the rare flora of orchids, and this rare flora, then eco-refuge of fauna. You will find the right corner, the deity of faith, social fencing, giant climbers liner. So right from the grasses to big trees, we will find all these sacred groves, which is growing since hundreds of years. No one has cut the trees, no one has planted the trees. So you'll find this is the real ecosystem existed hundreds of years. Next. So this is the aerial view. This is taken at the December 2020. Now, after 2 years, you will find one up to see how it is duplicated. So these are the threats which is going to happen in all sacred grove in our country. So we have to restore it. We have to protect it because these are the gene bank, seed banks. So this old one has to be retained and restored. You will find in the right side, it is all the trees are cut for their daily needs. These are the threats which is happening to our sacred groves. So these are the fauna they are saying, you please protect me. Now, what condition has been arrived for them? Because they are the owner of the universe. I'm saying they are the owner of the universe. And people come after all this creation, and now he's become the owner. So it is very sad that it is happening. Even our sacred also is duplicating. So we have to think about it and do something, because we cannot let it be as it. So we decided to make our man-made sacred grove. So why we need sacred grove? Because we can't grow the natural sacred grove, but we can grow the man-made sacred grove. First, we have to restore the original sacred grove. That's the part one. Part two, we have to create another sacred grove, but we can't make the real sacred grove, but we can make the man-made sacred groves. And for such reason, we have visited many of the sacred groves. We studied its flora, right from the grasses to trees. We identify it, and we collect the seed from outside, and we can plantation. We make a nursery out of it for the plantation. Now, these provide ecosystem services. It is a carbon sink. It recharges the aquifers. So most of the sacred grove, we'll find most of the river originate from that sacred grove. So such a huge, I will say it is a virgin forest. It also conserves the soil and its microfauna. It is an ecological refugia. It is a store of biodiversity. Means this Devrai is nothing but a biodiversity. It is a gene pool of the plant species and also the reference forest. The essential elements of Devrai foundation, and when we say we can't make the original, but we can the man-made. So why we have to make this sacred grove? Because since 400 generations. Right? Hello. Since 400 generation, we are cutting the virgin forest for our daily needs and for the in the name of the development. So which is resulting in the destroying of nature, flora and fauna. So now we have to reinstate by creating our Devrai. And it also another part of our plantation is a gunman, which is called as a dense forest. This man-made refugia, flora and fauna biodiversity. Our model covers majority of UN Sustainable Development Goals, which have the 17 goals. So most of them it covers. Our method is scalable. So we have one acre plantation plan, but that can be scalable to hundreds and 200 acres of the land area. And it is an economical sustainable model. When the more this amount or more expenses occur, so people keep away from it. But when it is economical, most of the people come together for this noble cause. And it is a self-sustainable like a snowball motion. And it has a very least carbon footprint. When we want to work for the nature, in everywhere, our carbon should be as less as possible. And this restoration concept is versus flora and fauna. So for what is, we made a plantation plan because people they want plantation, but who will guide? We say that sacred grove, Devrai will guide us because when we consider in our Pune city, most of the species are exotic one. So we want to plant all native species. So for that reason, we make a plantation plan. Do you see this is the 1 acre land, which is 200 width and 200 feet length. That is 40,000 square foot. Pointer by the one. Point. Sorry. So
That's all right.
Right. So these are the 20. This is 20 foot and this is 200. Right. So this 40,000 square foot. If you make the grid, so you will find this horizontal 20 grid of 10 foot distance. This vertically 20. So we will have 400 numbers of grids. So what we did, now this plant contained 190 species of 550 plants, means 119 species, right from grasses to trees to climbers to small trees, big trees. They all are the combination of it. And this is the portion which we enter, small road. All climbers are planted in this area. We make a pergola, and this is the small hut, right? Where we can sit or we can have some function or it can be utility area, and this is the water body. And we have planted, see, 1, 2, 21, 24. These are the 4 mangoes, right? Then Bitia monosperma means 4 palash, right? Then this is Cassia fistula. So we have planted 4 species together at the distance of 10 by 10 feet. Why we have planted 4? When we planted 4 together, they go very fast because they have the association between 4, like family, we have the association, right? Similarly, we have the association with all the 4 plants. So we have selected one species of 4 saplings. So everywhere you will find this we have planted. And when we plant 190 species, and till date we have grown 300 second row, what we will find, the birds, honeybees, butterflies, they come without calling. They eat, small leaves. They take nectar from the flower. They eat ripen fruits. When they become thirsty, they drink the water. That's what we call as a Devrai. So when we plant in such a manner, what are the benefits of this plantation? Next. This is the species plant in the cluster. It restores the native biodiversity. We have the one, just as I said, one water body. In the home for the birds, bees, and local fauna. Trees, climber, herbs, shrubs, grasses, which all get goods, and it's a human habitat also. Next. So when we plant that one sacred row, so we put signages of this. Right, left side you have seen the Bhava, means Cassia fistula. We'll find the first slide. What is the botanical name? Its family, its common name, whether it is indigenous, what is the flowering time, its fruiting time, the cultural importance, right? We'll see the flower photo, seeds photo, small use, it is in the pod, and they separate seeds also. What is there is medicinal use and general use. This was information we need. So we will find 190 species information in one place. So exactly it is like a book library. Number 2 slide, you will see. This is millions of seeds we will get from one sacred grove. You can imagine millions of seeds we can get from one sacred grove. Once we have the seeds, so we can make the nursery of local. So this you will find, this is our nursery. We have make all raised bed, and we have put all the seed in carries. This is about 10,000 square foot, means 100,000 square meter of land. So we make all the seedling on bed only. What happens generally, we put seed in the polythene bags. So we'll get the result of 10%, 20%, 30%. We won't get result of 100% germination. But what happened on the bed, the seed which was going to grow, that will grow, other will not grow. So we can leave this sapling seedlings, and we can directly plant into the polythene bags. Now, these are the different types of seeds we have seen. These are the seeds, right? These are the independent seeds, what we get from this sacred grove. Next. Now, just I have shown you that slide. The small seedling, these 2 ladies are planting, right? So within a day, these 2 ladies can grow about 5,000 to 6,000 sapling, because they have to just plug this seedling into the polythene bags. Here we'll find 95% germination results we get. So definitely it is economical. On the top of it, we'll find 1 acre of this nursery, which we use for plantation. Now, this is what your sacred grove photo. This is the 4-year-old sacred grove. You will find how the trees are going, and they are planting 4 together. So we can use the area below it, we can use for any general purposes. This is also right. Now this is again a gun one, dense forest. Now people want to grow tree faster and faster. So what we did in our area, we fill 3 feet of depth garbage, urban garbage we fill in 1,000 square meter area. And upon top of it, we put small soil, half feet depth. Then we planted this native trees, right? What here we are not used much more, in other things we use cocoa peat and everything. We have used waste material. And if you plant in that waste material, the growth is like a Miyawaki method, right? It is beneficial. How it is beneficial? Because garbage we have used. We have removed our plastic and non-degradable. We have removed it. Only the material which can be converted into for degradation, that we planted, and that sapling is grown 2 years. Gun one. The height of the plant will be 20 to 20 to 24 feet. So the distance was from 1 meter center to center planting. And in the depth of 3 foot garbage. Same thing, we can plant close to the nalas, the grey water which are flowing. So another dense forest we have made near the nala. We planted sapling 1 meter center to center, and we have given directly the drainage water it. Because of drainage water, it has a micronutrients. It has 1 to 50 micronutrients. So the growth of the sapling will be again 20 to 24 feet within a 2 to 3 years. So we can recharge, we can see the drainage water directly goes to the river. It pollutes the river. So that water we can be given to the plants. So that can be also, water purification also be there. And, every country or every big populated city, there is a huge, garbage is getting prepared day by day. So we use that garbage material. So the garbage is used and growth is also better. So this is the most economical, and we can do everywhere right from 110 square meter to 1000 square meter. Anywhere we can have, because nowadays in city area, we don't have land because all land is valuable. So we can create the vertical plantation. Suppose we have 1000 square foot of lawn, right? So we'll create 1000 square foot green area. If we plant a single tree of 10 square foot, means at least in 1%, if it's grow to become a tree, and if you spread that leaves, it will be more than 1000 square foot. So in dense or populated area, we don't area, so we can make this vertical plantation to, as we called it, say as the oxygen bank, or we want more greeneries. So likewise, we can do it. And it is very fast. We can solve the urban pollution problems. Now, this is our dense forest. This is 4-year-olds. This is also 5 years old. This is the deciduous. This is the evergreen forest. These are the results. Next. So far, our achievement from this Devrai Foundation, we have made donated till 2.9 million saplings, established 300 maintenance acre road, 57 urban forest. Tree library we have introduced this year also, because in the school, because this kid can't go to the forest, but that forest come to their school, because that we have provided 100 sapling with all information in school, because it requires only 100 square foot place. So right from the beginning, we can educate school children about the environment. This we have started this year. The miles to go. So we are planning, and we have a discussion with our government. We are planning 5,650 Devrais in our administration divisions of 20 state of India. Our is a scalable economic model because it involves very low cost. And all this, our model is public participation, because single person can't do it. If the involvement of the people is increased, we can cover maximum plantation, we can develop maximum Devrai, means maximum biodiversities. And it can be easily implemented by one anywhere at very low cost, because everywhere in world, there are the sacred grove known by the different name. We have to just collect that seed, make the sapling, and you can plant as per this plan. Because in this plan, it can be used everywhere with using their local species. So we can, and this will be the seed bank, millions of seed will get, and this will give a direction to the plantation. Because many times happens some wrong plantation is done. But if we go by this way, I feel this is the proper way for the plantation to give direction. That is why we join with Global Tea Initiative, because I'm interested that GTI should take this model, this Ghanwan model, all over the world, because it is the need of the earth. And next.
Mr.
And this
Dhole,
second,
can you please wrap it up shortly, please?
and I'm also thankful. I'm also thankful Mr. Sunil Bhede, who is with me, who helped me to make this presentation. Any needs require, you can contact me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dhole, and thank you to your helper as well. If you agree, we will go directly to our third speaker because we ran a little bit late in our time. And then at the end, we will have some time for questions, well, to the three of you, if that's all right, and if you agree.
Okay.
Renato is our third and final speaker for today. He's one of the co-founders of Agroforestry Carbon, which is an NGO in Brazil. And Renato is also a lawyer with international experience. He has many tasks within the team, but as a lawyer, he has to ensure the legal structuring of the startup, the management of internal and external legal matters, and compliance with all the laws, regulations, and standards for climate and agroforestry sector, among others. Renato is also a member of the Latin American Climate Lawyers Initiative for Mobilizing Action, a network of climate change law lawyers in Latin America. I'm very excited to have you here today, Renato, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing more about agroforestry and your agroforestry activities in Brazil. I think you can share the screen, and if so, please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Francisca. Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Global Tree Initiative, for inviting me. I'm going to share my screen now. Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, nice. So today is the International Day of Forests, 2024. First of all, I want to thank you, everyone who is here today. You could be anywhere else, but you are here today, and let's share knowledge together. So my name is Renato Canuto. I'm co-founder of Agroforestry Carbon, and we are fighting against climate change with regenerative agriculture and climate justice. Let's talk a bit about traditional agriculture. Basically, what we used to do since from the beginning is to put the forest down to use the rich soil to produce food. Okay, so the soil was great, very rich, and the food used to grow. But we started to do more as a monoculture, only one kind of tree or species there, or kind of plant, and then it started to degrade the soil. So we have to use agricultural chemicals as pesticides and herbicides and others. The soil is degraded, compacted, and nutrient poor, and there's water issues as well. You can see that image here or on a high level of agriculture using the big machinery here, a lot of dust, and the soil is compacted, very dry. You have to use chemicals. It's a monoculture. So we can change that. How we can change that? We can change with regenerative agriculture. We can say that regenerative agriculture is to regenerate areas that leads to the health of the environment as a whole. You think it as an organism, okay? So we establish the triad of sustainability, social, economic, and environmental as the goals. And the agroforestry is, in my opinion, the main tool for regenerative agriculture. There's others as well, but for me, it's the most effective one. Why? Because you build forests with food production. So you build a forest and there's food there. You're producing food. And you can improve the quality of the soil and produce better quality food. If the soil is rich, you produce better food. And we are a human being more healthy eating those kind of foods. There's exchange of nutrients between plants and trees. There's biodiversity of flora and fauna on the area. There's no need for chemicals. And the soil is rich, decompacted, and nutrient rich. And there's the recovery of water sources as well. Let's talk a bit more about agroforestry systems. Basically, it's a form of agricultural production concomitant with soil regeneration and forest formation. You can see here on this image, here, this tiny area here in the bottom is a younger area, that was less than a year. And this area here in the back is an area of 3 years. You can see how it grows and form a forest. You can see on the side here, a degraded area here. Not much going on in this area here. Probably is another agroforestry system. But in the back here, you can see another degraded area. And here you see an oasis, a beautiful agroforestry system with a lot of different species there. So there's a mix of annual crops, tree species, shrubs, fruit trees, legumes, timber, native trees as well, and fertilizer species in the same space. There's an increase of productivity, profitability, and sustainability on the land of this small farmer. It's an agricultural production system that imitates what nature normally does. So nothing new here. We're just copying and using the man to manipulate the forest to produce food for ourselves. Okay, so the soil, one of the principles of agroforestry is the soil is always covered by vegetation and organic matter as a result of the pruning and trimming of the trees. There's several plants together, one helping the other with nutrients in the soil. Practically without problems with pests or disease, eliminating the use of chemicals. Basically, when you have the one tree or plant different from the other, if one gets a disease, won't spread for the other one. Okay, so you don't need to use the chemicals. And when you start to covering the soil with organic matter, the soil gets richer, and then you don't need to use chemicals as well for the plant to grow. I normally say that there are techniques and principles for agroforestry. There's different recipes for its implementation, and it will depend on the farmer's objective. If he wants to live of that or just to collect food for him and his family. So I even say that there's no recipe. There's techniques and principles to be implemented in the area. So just to wrap, why agroforestry systems? Because it recovers degraded areas by producing food and forming forests. There's greater productivity per area. There's a high carbon sequestration from the atmosphere as a result of the pruning and trimming the trees. There's the improve of soil quality as well, the restore of water sources, increase of biodiversity, flora and fauna, and better quality of life for the farmer. Now talking a bit about agroforestry carbon and what we do. We are a startup, and we are the bridge between companies that seek to offset their carbon emissions in a transparent and traceable way, and small farmers who cultivate in regenerative agroforestry systems. We are connecting those farmers with the companies and putting them inside the carbon market, because there's no methodology good enough for a small area, especially for agroforestry systems. So this is our platform. We are developing a marketplace for agroforestry biodiversity credits. It will be a credit that you can compare to a carbon credit, but there's a lot more impact indicators beyond carbon. We'll have the same carbon sequestration as 1 ton of carbon. It's the same as one carbon credit, but we'll have transparency. We are working with small farmers. There's social impact, there's biodiversity. You are producing food, regenerating the soil, and many other impact indicators. Okay, here you can see the dashboard of our platform for the farmer. And we geolocate each tree that we are planting using our app. It's called GPS Agroflorestal. So we geolocate and identify any kind of tree that is planting on the agroforestry system. Here you can see an area that the small farmer planted those trees, and geolocate, putting the species here and the date of the plantation. And in our database, when a company offset their carbon emissions with that tree, we put in our database. So it's very traceable. There's a lot of transparency in what we are doing. This is an area before agroforestry, and this is an area after an agroforestry system. This area is in northeast of Brazil, in Bahia. And this video is going to be impressive, but there's only 1 year, okay? So you can see different tones of greens, a lot of different species. It's very organized as well. And it's building a forest in the next few years for sure. Let's talk a bit about our impact for the community, for the planet, and for the small farmers. Here, another picture about an area before the agroforestry system, and this is the same area after. A bit of our community there, planting trees. We have more than 470 small farmers registered with us, all with agroecological properties, especially all agroforestry systems. You can see here that from the beginning of last year, started to grow a lot, the number. Nowadays, we're even passing 500 small farmers registered with us. We already supported more than 220 small farmers. They received technical and financial resources. So here you can see some pictures of our partners here, planting trees, collecting food. And last year, only in the last year, we planted more than 280,000 trees. That's more than 400 hectares of regenerated areas with agroforestry systems. More than 600 different species planted. This is only because we are acting on operations. We are 2 years in operation. The startup has 3 years, but there are only 2 years that we are in operation. And these numbers of 280,000 trees planted was only on the last year. These are just for you guys to see the top 10 species among our small farmers. So a lot of banana is considered the queen of agroforestry. There's açaí, cocoa, coffee, erva mate, cupuaçu, palmulato, embaúba, jussara, and andiroba. These are the top 10 species, okay, from last year. We are working in all biomes in Brazil. We have intentions to develop plantations in other countries as well, but for now we are working only in Brazil, especially in Amazon and the Atlantic rainforest are the big numbers here from the last year. And let's talk about carbon sequestration. Since from the beginning of our operations, we sequestered more than 40,000 tons of carbon. And here you can see a younger area, okay, just has been implemented here. And this other image is an area with 3 years old. You can see the difference. Here the soil, you still can see the ground here. The soil is not covered. Here you can see a covered soil with the big trees already. And because of the intervention of the man, when you prune the trees or you trim the trees, you make organic matter that then you put this in the soil to cover. And this is carbon straight there in the soil. So, and then with the photosynthesis, the plants start to grow and the trees start to grow more. So that's why the agroforestry system, there's a high standard of carbon sequestration from the atmosphere. I even heard once one guy saying that we should develop or build a machine to sequester carbon from the atmosphere. And I can say for you, we don't need to build a machine. We already have one. We have a beautiful nature working and demand together. You can sequester more carbon in producing food and regenerating the soil as well. And another impact is our food production. Just in last year, we produced more than 7,000 tons of food. 1 hectare of agroforest can produce 80 tons of food. On this image, you can see here bananas, different kinds of bananas. Okay, this is cocoa. And this other fruit here is cupuaçu. If you have never tried, you should try one, especially from an agroforestry system. The flavor is totally different. It's very watery, and there's studies on that there's way more nutrients than other from organic or even monoculture. So agroforestry is organic, it's more than organic, it's an agroforestry food. And here you can see a bit of the biodiversity in the area. And we are building an agroforestry future. And I want to invite you guys to join us and let's build this agroforestry future together. Obrigado. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you guys could learn a bit, and let's share a bit of knowledge together. I'll leave here the contacts of Agroforestry Carbon, Instagram, LinkedIn, our website, and this email. You can contact us for partnerships or any question you have. I'll leave my email on the chat as well too, and my LinkedIn. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Renato, for joining us and for the amazing presentation. I think everyone enjoyed it. And just one note from the chat, Dharmendra, he's from India, and he's saying that countries like India, where most of the farmers are small landowners, this is what you shared with us, is presents a big opportunity for farmers in India. So maybe you could consider India as your next country when you want to leave Brazil.
Yes, for sure. I had I'm talking with Iman. Iman is here today. He's from Nigeria, and we are trying to develop a project there together. India will be a great country to work as well, especially on small areas producing way more food. Let's say that in 1 hectare of normal monoculture or agriculture production, you produce 1 ton of cacao, let's say, and in agroforestry you produce 8 tons of food. Okay, so it's not only cacao that's going to grow there or any other kind of species.
Thank you. I think our community is fighting for your attention and for your cooperation, collaboration. We can all work together. That's why we are here. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for the presentation, Renato. We have some time for questions now. And again, if someone in the audience wants to ask a specific question to one of the speakers, you can let us know. Or if it's just a general question, you can also let us know. For now, I would like to ask somewhat of a general question, because I already asked this to António at the beginning. And so now I would like to ask Mr. Dhole and Renato the importance of community for your work. And maybe I would ask Mr. Dhole first. What is the importance that the community has when building, when growing, actually, sacred groves? I asked you to unmute, Mr. Dhole. You are muted. Yeah.
For the community, right? This sacred grove contain 20% of medicinal plant, 20% food plants. And you will find this sacred grove once small hut is prepared, So this can be as agro-tourism, that will income for that rural place. For one sacred grove, for one village, it will have the agro-tourism. Once they have the seed bank also, they can sell the seeds. They can make the nursery out of, because they are having the seeds, so they can make the nursery, they can sell the plant, and they can use this sapling material for plantation nearby area to increase the biodiversity, right? This agriculture income yield by 30%. Why? Because all honeybees, butterflies, you know, the sapling we are planting, which grow more than honeybees occupy. So, you know, in the nature, these are the very important for to have the good quality of grains, fruits. So that is used to increase 30% of their crops. So there are so many, in so many ways, they are the beneficial. And also, we always say, because our 400 generation, they cut the trees. Now it's time to back to the nature. So we have to plant such a tree, which our ancestors has cut the trees, right? So that we plant, we can restore the biodiversity. Means this is the one basic to do, but in the you know economical way, we have such parameters. So every village should have one sacred grove. So therefore, this our Maharashtra government also agreed to have one sacred grove in every village.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you. Renato, do you want to answer that as well?
Yes, yes. We make like a lot of difference from the community from different perspectives. Let's first of all income. Okay, we are talking about small farmers that they want to sell their production to live and have money for his family. And we come with a project that we promote agroforestry as a way that they can produce more food to sell even more with the quality as well, and plus the carbon sequestration from the atmosphere that we sell this for our customers. So our project is not only an environmental project, but is a social project. We really work in the communities, not only producing food and sequestering carbon, but helping with techniques and even courses for training, even in financial, thinking about financial for them, financial issues. So it's way more than just plant trees. Plant trees and offset carbon emissions is a way that we found to help those small communities and the small farmer and make it valuable what they're doing, because they're doing it already. They are building agroforestry and they are not getting as much attention as they should. So that's one of our biggest goals is the community, is the social impact in our project.
Okay, thanks. And something else I was thinking about while listening to you is actually, for me, it's the million-dollar question when it comes to regenerative systems compared to conventional forms of agriculture is, can these systems actually feed the planet, feed humanity and feed the world? What do you think?
Yes, this is a hard question, okay? I would say that for now, we are not prepared to make the whole change, okay? Let's stop monoculture and start just with regenerative agriculture. The thing is, there's already going on huge projects in Brazil with agroforestry in large scale, and it's working. The great thing is that it's working, but agroforestry is one thing. If you get with the techniques and principles and you just get to that, sometimes there's a lot of trimming and pruning and a lot of work that you have to do on the area. So first of all, my concern is that the small farmer has to think in how much money he's going to spend, how much people is going to be working there, what he's going to sell there in the area. Does have a market for that kind of species of food, of tree, of castanha, of nuts. So has to think in a perspective that this is going to work. And if you get all the principles and techniques and we want to do that, then maybe it's going to be too much costly of time and money. But if you think this before, then yes, especially with guys, we are working with huge companies. They can put like different machinery in the fields on the agriculture to make more viable, not to compact the soil as much and work in a large scale. It's already happening, and we're gonna see this in the next years. I'm excited with that as well.
Yeah, exactly. The words I would use is exactly excited. I think there's a lot of it's very promising what can happen with this type of system. but it's also hard change. Like you said, it's there's too much at stake. So I'm curious also to see what's going to happen. Hans is asking in the chat to you, Renato, if you work in the Amazon region and if you work with indigenous peoples.
Yes, Hans, we work with indigenous peoples as well. On the beginning was kind of an issue because most of them, they don't have the land register as a normal small farmer.
Yeah.
But even though we got in contact with FUNAI, that is the foundation here that they kind of represent the indigenous, the traditional communities. And they are really happy of what we are doing. We even have one of our how can I say in English, but the cacique of the tribe, okay, he is inside FUNAI, and he got our project with him as well. So he's spreading the word inside that, and this is beautiful, okay. And we have indigenous community in Acre, Amazonia, Rondônia, Pará. I think those states. But yes, we can even talk a bit more about that, and I can show you better things. Thanks, Hans.
Thank you, Hans, and thank you, Renato. There's also another question, and I think this is somewhat general. So the three of you can answer. Maybe we'll start with António, and then Mr. Dhole, and then Renato. And this is it's about the impact that these tiny forests, these tiny projects, let's say, have in the global climate. Do you think building a tiny forest can have a big impact overall? Maybe António, please.
So the pragmatic answer is no. So one of them, no. A network of them, possibly. I think in Portugal, which is a very different situation from India and other places where this has been done, I believe that a network of them in the cities and the peri-urban areas around the cities can have a real impact in the terms that I've talked about the heat island, about everything. But I think nowadays, as they stand, they are more of an educational opportunity for both the adults and for the children to get inspired to do more and to develop new methods and to improve the methods that we've been talking here. So I think both, and I think I talk for all of us when I say that all of the methodologies here talked about today have room to improve. And I think the tiny forest one is a one that has a lot of space to do that, because it really depends on the place. So I think one day where the world is filled with agroforests and tiny forests and ponds and everything, I think that those ones will have a huge impact on a global scale. For now, it's more on a local scale, which is also important, because I really think we should start from the bottom up. But yeah, I think the more we can connect these places to one another, not only because of the people, but because of the biodiversity, I think that will start to, because what we're aiming to do is to try and recreate what nature was there on these places, which was basically just nature there. And we've destroyed everything to rebuild now what was there before. And I think that takes some time, but I think with time and with more experiments, eventually we will accomplish this goal that we've been here talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And what you said at the beginning about having over half of the human population living in cities these days. So we need the connection, right, between people and natural elements. So these smaller ways is also provide that kind of service. That's very important as well.
One thing, I think work has to be done at every scale. So from the scale that I've been doing here, a very small one, to the one that Renato and Mr. Dhole have done on a more global scale. I think we have to tackle every front at the same time. And I think this is a good example of what's been doing here in the world on this presentation.
Yeah, there's so much that needs to be done that we can just do it at every scale, anytime, anywhere. Okay, thank you. First of all, Mr. Dhole, I don't know if you want to add something to that when it comes to the impact that these sacred groves can have on the local or the global climate.
Yeah, this sacred grove is nothing but it's a biodiversity. So we can create this biodiversity in every village, and it is a scalable model. So in this way, we can increase, in our country, we are having a target of 33% green covers. So by this way, we can make the 33%, and with public participation, because with public participation, we can achieve the goals. And when we say, we connect with the people that our 400 generation have cut the forest, now it's time to give back. So people feel that they have their duty to do something. So once they get the plantation plans, once they get the sapling, they are ready to do it. That is why this number of sacred groves is increasing in our country and in our state also. And this is the need of the hour actually. Even your sustain goal also following these sacred groves. This is the small plantation, but this will give the direction to the plantation. Because most of the people don't know which the native seed, which the native trees, which are the exotic, no one knows. But this sacred grove teaches what are the natives. We are getting seed banks, we can make the nursery. This is all going on the local level. And local participation definitely is required. Once they know the importance, then the people come to us and they start plantation. So this is a small plantation, but it is a direction to the plantation.
Thank you. We don't have a lot of time left. Renato, do you want to add something in regards to? Yes, please.
Congratulations, António, for what you said. You said beautifully, and Mr. Dhole as well. We are different projects, all of them working together with the climate change. Agroforestry is a powerful tool against climate change because there's a high level of carbon sequestration. And not only about that, this is the main thing, okay? But we can talk even about climate on the region. When you started like an area of 1 hectare is one thing, but when you develop like a 40 hectares area, you already start to change the climate on that area, microclimate, okay? And if you develop more agroforestry system with different biodiversities, flora and fauna coming together, you're gonna have a huge impact on climate for sure, as you're gonna produce food and not gonna release as much carbon for the atmosphere as normal traditional agriculture.
Thanks. I would have a lot of follow-up questions, but I just will ask one final question because we are running out of time. And this is from Ria. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but she's asking if, and I think this is for you, António, has some study been done on the reduction in temperature in surrounding areas due to a small, tiny forest? Yeah.
In the place, in the area where we live in the Mediterranean, that I know of, no, but I know that some work has been done in the Netherlands. So if you search Zaanstad, which is Zaanstad, is a place where the Utrecht University has been doing a lot of work in recent couple of years with tiny forests, and I know that they've been doing some work on this as well. So there may be some information there. The thing is, we know by principle that when we have shade and when we have plants, because of the evapotranspiration and everything, the temperature always diminishes, right? But scientific data on this, on my area, not that I know of, but that would be something, right, that we should tackle. But unfortunately, we cannot tackle everything at once, so we have to choose our battles sometimes. But yeah, ideally, I would say that yes. But if you need anything more, like in detail, or if you need any help, you can send me an email or contact me via Francisca, and I can try to put you on some information regarding this with more specific data.
Thank you. That's brilliant. Yes, exactly, Mrinalini. Mrinalini is saying, I wish all methods work together and get introduced as an education curriculum. Yes, I think it's very important, this type of event that we are having, to share information and to work together. I think that was the whole point. Hans, do you have your hand raised? Okay. Feel free to ask.
Just a
It has
small
to,
one.
yeah, it has to be short because we are almost at the end.
Thank you. Thank
Please.
you for reminding me. I see this time. In Mr. Devrai, in Mr. Raghunath's presentation, I remember seeing a forest of tall palm trees in there. And I remember him mentioning during our visit in at the Devrai that he was saying that it has become an area of where you can feel the climate change reducing in there, and also it has an area of increased rainfall. It's very beautiful. So it's small, but it's very beautiful. It's very impactful. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention, I think it's so great, and thank you, Miranini, for saying that as well. I think we're all kind of like in a different projection, but we're all working for the same results. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Hans, for the enthusiasm and for the idea and for helping us with this webinar. Okay, so thank you so much to everyone who attended. Our time is coming to an end. Personally, I felt the webinar was very rich and very interesting, and I really liked hearing more about all of your projects. I loved what Mrinalini just said at the beginning, that we have to, and António as well, that we have to work together, and that's actually the only way we can make a difference, is to create a network of different projects working together and acting locally but having a global impact together. I think that's the only way we can make a difference and help our forests and help our climate and protect biodiversity. So thank you so much to everyone who joined, and a special thank you as well to those who donated upon subscribing. Of course, thank you to all the speakers, to our 3 speakers. And I hope, of course, you had a very good time here today and that you could learn something from one another. Finally, I want to thank to our team who's been pulling the strings behind the scene. Thank you so much to them. In the next few days, I've said this before, but I will say it again. In the next few days, we will share the recording with everyone who signed up, and we'll also post it on our social media channels. Of course, I will coordinate with the speakers to get all the information that was shared, the presentations, the links, the resources. If anyone has a question that was not answered, they could also come to us and we will try to answer that question. We can even write some articles on it in collaboration with our speakers. And yes, I hope this event was fruitful and informative and interesting for everybody. And thank you again for joining. I hope to see you again soon. If anyone has some final remarks or some final goodbyes, you can switch on your microphones and cameras and say it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Really great to hear all of you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank
Dharmendra.
Thank you. The planting machine.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Osel. Thank you, Francisca. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye, Mrinalini. Thank you.
Bye.